What's up, Canes fans? Peter Ariz here with CanesInSight.com, bringing you today's edition of the CanesInsight Daily Podcast. And we've got a very special episode, as we do every week, previewing the opponent, Virginia Tech, Friday night, with an opposing reporter. Scott Roche of Fighting Gobbler will be joining us. As always, though, this episode is brought to you by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys, Florida personal injury lawyers. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. 1-800-747-FREE to contact them. Thank you, as always, to Anajar and Levine, great sponsors and partners for this show. So we have Scott Roche today, Virginia Tech, Miami. The Canes off to a hot start. Of course, 4-0 to start the season, just rolling through the competition. But ACC play, it's amongst us. It's here. Last year, got off to a great start as well. And then, of course, the Georgia Tech game happened. So Miami, coming into this one, flying high, 3-score favorites. But can they get the job done? Excited to talk to Scott Roche today. He gives us a nice preview, a nice breakdown of what's happening up there in Blacksburg. But first, got to remind you guys, basketball season is around the corner. And Canes fans, with basketball season almost here, and both the men's and women's schedules stacked. For the men's teams, we've got epic matchups against Duke, Florida State, Virginia, and more at the Watsco Center, plus the ACC SEC Challenge against Arkansas. Coach Cal taking over that program. He's coming into town. Got us last year at Kentucky, so we get another crack at him here at home, but against Arkansas. Don't miss a minute. Go grab your season tickets now. MiamiHurricanes.com/hoops tickets. And for the women's basketball team, the Cavender Twins are back, and the Canes are set to host Florida State, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, UNC, and SMU. Go grab your tickets as well at MiamiHurricanes.com/hoops tickets. Head over there now, lock in your season tickets. That's MiamiHurricanes.com/hoops tickets. Let's pack the Watsco Center and go Canes. Without much further ado, Scott Roche of FightingGobbler.com. All right, everybody. Excited to welcome in tonight's guest, Scott Roche of FightingGobbler.com. And let me tell you, Scott, we do these previews with opposing reporters every week. Your site's name is by far the coolest, the most unique. I'm going to pull it up here, Canes fans. Definitely go check out Scott's work here. Again, FightingGobbler.com on the Fansided Network. And you see, obviously, he's doing his coverage here of the game this Friday night. And Scott, again, thank you for joining us today. Excited to get some insight on what's going on up there in Blacksburg. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, of course, Scott, these two programs have a long history together and coming into the conference together. So many great games over the years. But before we get into this matchup specifically, right, I wanted to just kind of get a lay of the land from you of the program up there in Virginia Tech. Brent Pry, year 3 now, just like Mario Cristobal here in Miami. And year 3 is usually that year where the fans say, okay, we've given him a couple years. We've given the new guy a couple years. We've got to see some real signs of progress. So preseason, borderline top 25 team, obviously teams 2-2 right now. But give me kind of the outlook from the Hokie fans up there heading into the season, and then where we are today with just the program in general.
I would say Miami and Virginia Tech were both kind of like the darlings of the ACC by a lot of national reporters going into the year. New 12-team playoff teams. Miami added a ton of talent in the portal. Virginia Tech returning 90+% of their production from last year. They really had a strong second half, going 5-3 in the ACC after starting 1-3 to become bowl eligible. And then after that, Brent Pry got all this retainment. Kyron Jones came back. Bashal Tutin came back. The Antoine Power Island, the defensive line, came along. He went to the portal, and he had some big boys in the portal. And all the signs were there to take the next step this year. And going into the season, I think a lot of people, me included, had both teams at 4-0 going into this matchup. And they just have not lived up to their hype this year. I wrote about this week, where you're going into the game. Miami is legitimately living up to their hype, preseason hype. They're legit. They're playing like it. Virginia Tech, It's like one step forward, two steps back. And the fan base is not happy. The fan base is very frustrated. Brent Pry did a great job this offseason selling to the fan base, selling to the transfer portal people, selling to the recruits. He's got a good recruiting class coming in next year. About the culture, about we're taking the next step in the program. This was supposed to be the next big step in year 3 under Pry. And you can sell that and you can tell everybody that. That's all well and good. But if you go out and you get out-coached, out-schemed, and just outperformed in all phases of the game, really, in your first 4 weeks, that it doesn't work like that. And the fan base is really, really frustrated right now. Now, I will say this: there is a lot of NFL talent on this team, which makes it even more frustrating. So you have some players that are going to be playing on Sundays, and I personally, I don't like to bash people, but I think it's a coaching issue right now as to why they're underachieving.
Now, if you could pinpoint something in terms of on the field, right? I mean, but both the offense and defense statistically, they're not doing great. They're in the 70s in scoring offense, scoring defense. So, I mean, if you could just pinpoint one thing on the field, what would it be that you would say has gone wrong?
I think it's on the offensive side of the ball. I think the defense has had its moments where it struggled, but they've kept them in a lot of games. They should have been blown out by Rutgers by the middle of the third quarter on Saturday. Instead, the defense gets a fourth and goal stop at the 2. They force a turnover on the goal line, and next thing you know, they come back and tie the game. Offensively, Kyron Jones looks nothing like the quarterback he was last year. He's throwing the ball. He's hesitant. He's not going through his reads. Now, the offensive line is a major, major red flag for them right now. They can't block anybody. And I think it's Kyron Jones is feeling the pressure of everything struggling. And the play calling is Tyler Bowen did a great job last year in the second half of the year with the play calling. Really, once he got figured out what Kyron Jones can do after he replaced Grant Wells, they took the offense to a next level and they put up 30, 40 points a game for the most part. This year, it's the play calling is a lot of head scratching. Bashal Tootin is one of the best backs in the ACC, and he's not even getting touches at key times, which is really, really odd.
Yeah, I was going to say Tootin has looked good just in watching some of the Virginia Tech stuff this week. And look, if there's a positive on the offensive side of the ball, the rushing attack led by him, I should say, has been a positive. And listen, Miami obviously coming off of a win against USF. Drones, to me, looks similar body type wise to Byron Brown. Their ability, to run the football and be physical, but 58% completion percentage there. I mean, you would probably wish that was a little bit higher for Drones. When it comes to him specifically, right? And you said it, a lot of buzz about him preseason, some talk about him being a riser on NFL boards and things of that nature. He's matched his interception total already from last season. So he took care of the football last year, but has thrown 3 interceptions this year. Where has he struggled this year? As you mentioned, it hasn't been a perfect start for him.
I think one area he struggled is through his reads, and part of it's not his problem. Part of it is the offensive line. I mean, he's been under pressure so many times, being flushed out of the pocket, on the run, and I would like to see him run the ball more. I know you don't want your quarterback running as much as someone like him can do, but when their offense is going, as you saw against Old Dominion, he's running the ball and Bashal Tootin's running the ball. You focus on one, the other one can hurt you, and they're just not doing that. It's drop back, screen pass, bomb, run, stop, throw it down the field. It's the play calling is just really, I think, keeping the offensive back, because you could basically get everybody back last year, plus Ali Jennings, who was hurt in game 2 last year. And he's only got 4 receptions this year in 4 games.
Now, looking at some positives, right? And I'm going to pull up an article that you wrote on your site here, and a lot of the Canes fans heard this as well in Mario Cristobal's press conference the other day. But Mario Cristobal, as he's great at the coach speak stuff and making sure his team tries to stay level-headed as they have had some success this year, has spoken highly, especially of the defensive front for Virginia Tech here. And look, from Miami's perspective, obviously they had Florida game 1, but that team has not turned out to be, very, very good. Not much of a test, I would say. And haven't really faced the toughest competition. So now heading into ACC play, it seems like Mario understands that defensively Virginia Tech will probably pose some more problems than what they've seen. So talk to us about that defensive side of the ball.
I agree with him. I think they have a lot of talent on that side of the ball, and I think they have more Sunday talent on that side of the ball than they do on the offensive side. Antoine Paul Ryland is back. He led them in sacks last year on the edge. Cole Nelson's on the other edge. They really did a good job in the transfer portal. Their defensive line, when they're playing, they're a stout group. Aeneas Peebles from Duke, Kelvin Gilliam from Oklahoma, Kamari Copeland, who's out this week. That's a big loss from Community College in Iowa. He's been playing really well this year. And the secondary's banged up with Jalen Stroman out, but Mansour Delane, Quentin Reddish is a young kid stepping in, playing well. Linebacking core has been solid. I mean, they've been really good at the second level. They've been really good stopping the run. Mobile quarterbacks hurt them, as we saw with Diego Paver in the opener against Vanderbilt. But that defense is better than it's performed. I really truly believe that defense is better than it's performed. And I still think there's more Sunday players on that side of the ball than there are on the offensive side.
So Scott, not to jump back to the offensive side of the ball, but looking at Virginia Tech's receivers and the weapons that Kyron Drones has there, a question mark for Miami has been their secondary, young guys, new starting safety duo, but they have not been tested. So who should Canes fans look at as threats in that offense?
Well, they do have some weapons out there that are good. Stephen Gosnell has made some big catches this year. He's a graduate student. He's a pretty good story. He tore his ACL last year in the bowl game against Tulane and actually thought about quitting football, but went through an intense workout and an intense program and came back, and he's been one of their best receivers. Jalen Lane had some big catches. He's their punt return guy now with Tucker Holloway gone for the year. He's returned a punt already for a touchdown. He's got next level speed, as does Daquan Felton. He's another one who Kyron Jones had him open a few times last week against Rutgers on deep balls and just overshot him by a few feet because he has certainly had a step on his guy, and he had a big touchdown last year against Pittsburgh on a deep ball. So Ali Jennings, he's only had 4 catches. He's been in and out of the lineup, but basically Stephen Gosnell, Daquan Felton, Jalen Lane, and youngster Aiden Green had a big catch the other day. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be a big part of their future, and he's had a few big catches already this year for them too.
Now, defensively, we talked about some positives. Where would you say there's been some struggles there on the defense side of the ball? Because obviously Miami, number 3 scoring offense in the country, and they've lit it up. Cam Ward has been on fire. The offensive line's been awesome, and they have some weapons around him. So from the Virginia Tech perspective, where would you think Miami could potentially hurt them?
Well, they're banged up there. Like I said, Stroman's out in the secondary. Copeland's out along the offensive line. They have had a terrible time stopping the run. They entered last week's game against Rutgers as last in the ACC defending the run this year. Diego Paver's a pretty good quarterback, but he's not the type of quarterback that should shred you the way he did in the opener. Their run defense is very, very suspect, and if they don't fix that, it's going to be a long night. I'm sure Miami will attack in different ways. They do have some youngsters in the secondary, but I would think right now Virginia Tech's going to have to try and stop the run. If they don't stop that run, Miami, I think, is just going to move the ball all night on them.
And then just kind of wrapping things up here from a football perspective, special teams, Beamer ball, Canes fans are very, familiar with it. And obviously it hasn't been the same, but how would you categorize the special teams? It does look like John Love's been a pretty consistent kicker going back to last year, but let's hear your thoughts on the special teams unit.
They got 2 great kickers. They got John Love and they got Peter Moore, that punter. He's one of the best punters in the ACC. He's got a leg and a half. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him kicking on Sundays down the line. The problem has been, and if Miami's able to, the first 4 games, they have made crucial special teams mistakes. It's not beamer ball anymore. It's far from it. And it's every single mistake they've made the opponents have turned into points. So I wrote about this, I think it was yesterday or today. The special teams are not special anymore down there. But they do have 2 very powerful legs, and John Love is the place kicker and Peter Moore is the punter.
Well, it should be interesting Friday night, Scott. Listen, great to get your perspective on it, and it seems like you're very level-headed, because sometimes we get some of these opposing people on here, and you would think that it was a top 5 team in the country, but it seems like you're a little down on things up there right now. So hopefully the tide turns a little bit for you guys.
Yeah, I don't expect it to turn this week. They get a cross-country trip to Stanford next week, and if they're sitting at 2-4. It's going to be a very interesting last 6 weeks in Blacksburg for them and Brent Pry, who's 12-16 in his first 28 games. In 3 years, that's not going to get it done in Virginia Tech.
Well, listen, it's been a great matchup over the years. It's better when both teams are at their best. So Miami's off to a hot start. Hopefully you don't clip the Canes this week, but we'll see what happens. Anything can happen. And Friday night at Hard Rock Stadium. So Scott Roche from fightinggobbler.com. Again, best name of any website we've had on. So Canes fans, go check out Scott's work over there in the lead up to this game. Scott, thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This an insight to the Canes, and you know we ain't playing no games. Joaquin said dominate, so that's what we do. Home of the legends and 7th floor crew. Down in Miami where hurricanes brew. You here for the rumors, we bring you the news. Cause it's all about the you. And nobody do it like CanesInSight. 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 It's CanesInSight.